It began with one simple detail. Wang Yibo took a chartered flight to Tibet. On its own, it was just a description of a journey. But once that phrase was lifted into a headline, stripped of context and wrapped in suggestion, it became something else entirely. In a digital world hungry for outrage, the words chartered flight were enough to trigger accusations of arrogance, extravagance, and a so-called big star attitude. Within hours, comment sections turned into courtrooms. Very few people asked why the flight was arranged or what kind of work he was actually doing in Tibet. Instead, assumptions solidified into judgment. This is how modern storms begin. Not with facts, but with fragments. A snapshot, a rumor, and a catchy line can overshadow an entire project, an entire team, and even an artist's years of effort. Before anyone looked at the glaciers, they were already debating the plane. Behind every journey in the entertainment world lies a quiet, relentless clock. For this trip to Tibet, that clock was ticking loudly. The schedule was not designed for leisure. It revolved around an early morning event, a demanding filming plan, and the unpredictable realities of high-altitude travel. Commercial flights at that time could not guarantee timely arrival without risking delays to the entire program. The chartered flight, then, was less a symbol of luxury and more a reluctant answer to a logistical puzzle. How to deliver an artist, a crew, and a commitment to an international project on time. When we view the decision through this lens, the meaning shifts. It is no longer, how important does he think he is? But, how much pressure was the team under to honor every promise made? The flight was not about raising someone above others. It was about ensuring that the work, the message, and the people depending on that moment were not left stranded. Once the noise about the plane fades, we are left with the reality of the destination. Tibet was not a red carpet. It was a landscape of thin air, harsh temperatures, and physical strain. In that environment, Wang Yibo did not stand in designer clothes under studio lights. He moved between glaciers, followed camera crews over uneven ground, and stood beside volunteers, holding a simple board calling for glacier protection. The work was not glamorous, but it was necessary. Each shot captured the fragile state of the ice, the visible signs of a climate under stress. In those frames, he was not playing a role. He was lending his face, his voice, and his influence to a cause that will outlast any trend. What he did there was more than a photo shoot. It was an attempt to turn popularity into attention for something that cannot speak for itself. The silent, melting glaciers at the edges of our world. No artist earns the label responsible from one public appearance. It is a character formed slowly, through repeated choices that few people ever see in full. Long before this trip to Tibet, Wang Yibo had already begun to build that reputation. Responding quickly to natural disasters, donating quietly yet decisively, collaborating with foundations rather than simply attaching his name to campaigns. These actions do not erase criticism, but they do add weight to his intentions. When he steps into difficult environments for projects that highlight environmental or social issues, it is not an isolated performance. It is part of a longer journey in which he has chosen, again and again, to use his visibility for something larger than self-promotion. Responsibility, in this sense, is not a title gifted by fans or media. It is a pattern of behavior. And when we judge any single incident, it is worth placing it against the backdrop of that wider pattern. When criticism erupted, it did not fall only upon Wang Yibo. The production team, whose names are rarely known by the public, suddenly became the invisible villains of the story. People imagined a group eager to indulge a star's whims, using a chartered flight to create spectacle. Yet, production teams are often the ones wrestling with reality. Limited flight schedules, strict contracts, weather risks, budgets already spent, and partners expecting results. To them, a delayed arrival is not a minor inconvenience. It can mean wasted days, canceled permits, and broken promises to organizations relying on the project's success. In that light, the decision to charter a flight can be seen less as indulgence and more as a protective measure for everyone involved. If there was blame, it may have been directed at the wrong target. The question is not only whether the crew went too far, but whether our expectations of them have ever been grounded in an understanding of how their world actually works. One of the most powerful responses to this incident did not come from official statements, but from ordinary fans. Faced with criticism, they could have chosen only to argue, attack, or withdraw. Instead, many turned their energy towards learning and sharing. They created posts explaining glacier melt, gathered information about climate change, and encouraged small but meaningful lifestyle changes. Reducing waste, supporting environmental charities, talking about the importance of fragile ecosystems like Tibet's. Some used their creativity, art, edits, essays, to link their admiration for Wang Yibo with a deeper awareness of environmental issues. In doing so, they quietly redefined what it means to support an idol. It was no longer just about defending his image, but about amplifying the values his work was trying to express. Controversy may have lit the spark, but it was the fans' decision to respond with empathy and responsibility that allowed something gentler and far more lasting to emerge. Beyond the cameras and talking points, there is another layer to this story: the cultural ground upon which it took place. Tibet is not only a backdrop of snow and mountains. It is a living mosaic of language, ritual, craft, and belief. When a widely recognized artist like Wang Yibo steps into that space with respect, observes local craftspeople at work, watches traditional dances, and participates in cultural events, he becomes a bridge, however briefly, between worlds that rarely meet. Young viewers who might never search for intangible cultural heritage find themselves unexpectedly watching clips of traditional weaving, music, or ceremony. His presence does not belong at the center of those traditions, but it can gently redirect attention towards them. That quiet redirection is powerful. It reminds us that visibility is not only about self-display. It can also be about standing to one side, allowing the spotlight to fall on people and practices that deserve to be seen, remembered, and cherished. This incident is not just a case study about one flight or one celebrity. It is a mirror held up to all of us. We live in a time when information moves faster than reflection, when a photograph can travel further than its explanation, and where outrage is often easier than understanding. The charter flight to Tibet became a symbol, first of supposed vanity, then of misunderstood responsibility, because we reacted before we truly knew. The deeper lesson is uncomfortable but necessary. Our opinions carry weight, even when formed in seconds. Before we share, accuse, or mock, we might ask ourselves whether we are responding to a full story or just to its loudest fragment. In choosing patience over impulse, we do not take sides blindly. We simply honor the complexity of real lives and real work. Perhaps the most meaningful response to this controversy is not to defend or attack, but to remember how much wisdom begins with the decision to pause.